Hello, Joy Olson, Blockbuster Fundraising. Ooh, I read this interesting question in a group that I belong to, a fundraising group. And the question was this. I have been wondering about the length of my letter for my next appeal. Should it be longer or should it be shorter to be most successful? And I thought to myself, gee, that is really a great question. And I have researched this a lot in my fundraising years. And guess what? I have a lot of information to share with you today. So let me get into it right now, and I'm going to give you two or three different opinions. All right, so I don't know whether you know of Jeff Brooks, but I'm betting that you do. And he's got this great book all about writing irresistible communications. So he talks about in his book about his, I think her name, she was Aunt Ruth. And Aunt Ruth was always getting fundraising appeals. And he tells a story that she threw one away unopened, and the other she set on a small table next to her comfy chair. And she was smiling the entire time. She liked to get her mail, and she said, "I'm going to read my mail now." She said in the same tone someone would say, "I'm going skiing this weekend." See, a lot of your donors like that mail. So, Jeff said suddenly it came to him, Aunt Ruth likes reading her mail, even the junk mail. To Aunt Ruth, those unsolicited letters aren't an annoying fundraising tactic. They are a connection to people she's interested in and causes she cares about. Okay, so that's very interesting and insightful. Don't feel bad about writing those letters. You're communicating, you're reaching out, and someone's going to be really happy to hear from you. Well, one time Jeff says his Aunt Ruth called to tell him something that she'd read in one of her letters. And this was it. "Did you know that it only costs 12 cents to keep a little boy or girl from going blind? 12 cents! That wasn't a clever marketing proposition to Aunt Ruth. It was an exciting piece of news, a relevant fact worth sharing. So, Jeff's Aunt Ruth is a reader. Her love of mail may strike you as bizarre, but it's common among donors. So, really, every fundraiser needs an Aunt Ruth. She can keep your mind open to different ways of thinking, including the notion that many donors love to hear from us. Radical though it might be, they do. So, that love of reading what the postman brings helps explain why direct mail is such a powerful fundraising medium. And it even, as Jeff puts it, direct mail dwarfs the next runner-up, which is the telephone. And it also sheds light on an even greater mystery, why longer messages usually work better at raising funds than short ones. Jeff says, "I hate long letters. I wish they'd just get to the point." I bet you don't care for long letters either. I don't either, really. Nevertheless, long messages work. And here's how. And everyone that I'm going to tell you a little bit about today, about long or short letters, they've tested it. And as has Jeff Brooks. He says, "I've tested long against short many times, and in direct mail, the shorter message only does better about 10% of the time. A short message does tend to work better for emergency fundraising, emergencies. But most often, if you're looking for a way to improve your direct mail appeal, add another page. Most likely it's going to boost your response. And often it can generate a higher average gift too. Wow. A win-win situation. And it's true in email too, though not as decisively so. In Jeff's experience, a longer email outperforms a shorter one about 2 out of 3 times. Brevity may be a virtue in the emails you write to coworkers, I'm sure it is, but longer emails still get through to a lot of donors. So in surveys and focus groups, donors often complain about long fundraising messages. They say exactly what you or I would say. I don't have time to read something that long. Why don't they just get to the point? Well, that's what they say, but in real life, donors respond more often to long messages. The experts say they don't know exactly why, but here are some of their theories. The Aunt Ruth theory. Many donors just enjoy reading. More words mean more reading pleasure, and that means more connection and increased chances a person will give. Next theory is the multiple triggers theory. Some donors are likely to give when you help them visualize a life-threatening need. Others will be moved if you emphasize a great deal. The longer the message, the more triggers you can include. I guess that's something for everyone, right? All right, next theory in favor of longer letters and why they may work best. The hopscotch theory. Few people read everything that you've written, starting with the first word and ending with the last. Just watch someone, anyone, while they read their mail. They kind of start where their eyes land, they bounce around, they leap forward, they leap backward, they skip entire sections, reading other parts more than once. Sometimes they go straight to the P.S. Jeff says that he once watched his mother read an appeal that he'd written. She didn't know it was his. And she started at the end and worked her way backward. And the last sentence she read was his carefully crafted lead. A longer letter has more entry points, more calls to action, more chances for a reader who isn't following your logic to get pulled in. Next theory, the gravitas theory. The very fact that a message is long may signal to donors in some subliminal way that it's important. They may not need to read every single word because the length tells them all they need to know. This is important. Jeff says that he's found that the best long messages have two characteristics: repetition and story. And he says that repetition is the most important part. Repeat yourself because you don't know if readers understood what you said the first time. Repeat yourself because you can't be sure that they even caught it the first and second times. Repeat yourself because sometimes it doesn't sink in until you've said it a few times. You heard that theory that you have to say something 3 times for someone to really hear it? Well, repeat yourself because you never know what way of making the case is the one that will get through. You can use these different theories. And one of them's got to work, right? The advantage of a longer letter. So the outline for an effective long fundraising message might look something like this. And we're going to put this up on the screen. Introduction. Why I'm writing to you. And then an ask. Why your gift is so important today. And then an ask. How much impact your gift will have right now. And then an ask. A story that demonstrates the need, the real need, and then an ask. Remind the donor of his values and connection with the cause, and then an ask, and now another story and an ask. And help the donor now visualize what will happen when they give and an ask. And the conclusion, Thank the donor for caring and ask again. Jeff says, you think that he might be exaggerating, but he's not. If you're serious about raising funds, you really have to ask again and again. Stories can really shine in a longer message. That's a brilliant point for a longer letter. The difference between a richly detailed story and one that's been pared down to fit into a small space can be like the difference between a snapshot and a film. For example, here's how you might write about the cruel practice of bear baiting if you're writing a short message. The bear sat in its haunches, bleeding from its injured mouth. The longer version is more vivid. The bear sat on its haunches, rocking back and forth, blood pooling in the dirt beneath it. One side of its mouth was torn open and hanging loose, exposing the teeth and drizzling saliva and blood into its matted fur. Yikes. The reality quotient. The sense that the reader has actually witnessed the scene is certainly higher in the long version. In fact, maybe you've seen too much in the long version. And when the reader has a vivid experience with your cause, even when it's only through the written word, they are much more likely to give. All right, well, some people, Jeff says, believe the era of long messages is ending. They say that text messaging, the 140 character tweets are now 280, and changes in the way people communicate and retrieve information work against people sitting down to read the way that Jeff's Aunt Ruth does. Jeff says, maybe. But so far, and they're testing it and they're researching it, longer messages are holding their own. Finally, Jeff says, the important thing is this. You can't judge this issue by what you'd want in your own mailbox. And I think that's something we have a tendency to always do. You've got to walk a mile in your donor shoes. You've got to think like your donor. You can't even base it on what your donors tell you they want. You have to watch actual donor behavior as it plays out in the form of response to your messages. What is their response? So until you learn otherwise, keep sending those long messages. And I'm going to put up a picture. I was going to grab it here, and then I won't take up the time. A picture of Jeff's book, The Guide to Irresistible Communications. It's great. He's funny. He's accurate. His information is researched. And I think it will help you make a decision on whether it's long or short. And if you decide on length, you'll have a nice outline. And you'll remember to ask, and then ask again. Thank you, Joy Olson of Blockbuster Fundraising. Hope to see you again soon. Well, I've got a few more of these long or short expert answers for you, so I'll get those up soon. In the meantime, joyolsongroup.com, blockbusterfundraising.com are two websites you can go to find out a lot more about us. And we have nearly 300 free fundraising video tips on our YouTube channel. That's Blockbuster Fundraising. Joy Olson here saying we're in fundraising inspiration right around the corner. We're here from you. We'll keep you inspired. We'll help you keep it going. Bye-bye. Thanks. See you soon.